Nyali stood on the bridge of her small transport ship as it drifted toward the dusty surface of Veritas 4. The stars outside the viewport seemed distant and cold. Her skin, softly glowing with indigo and violet light, reflected the faint sunrise that filtered through the thin atmosphere. Around her, the controls of the ship hummed with gentle mechanical life. She tightened her grip on the railing and took a steady breath. She remembered the last time she had set out into space. On her homeworld of Xeris, she had tried to help her people by using her unusual gift of empathy. Nyali's empathic resonance could calm angry crowds and ease fear, but many on Xeris thought it was strange and dangerous. They said she should hide her gift or leave. Her own family, frightened by other citizens' scorn, had sent her away. Since then, she had wandered from planet to planet, seeking someone who would accept her. Hundreds of times she had begged for shelter and work, and hundreds of times she had been turned away. Now the metal hull of her ship groaned as it entered Veritas IV's atmosphere. Outside, the world looked barren, rolling red plains of dust and rock with a few scattered towers of metal and glass. She knew that this moon was far from rich. Small traders and miners sometimes came here looking for a new start. Nyali thought that maybe this time things would be different. She watched the navigation display as it traced a crooked path toward the largest settlement on Veritas 4. The landing pad was little more than a flat circle of reinforced stone. It was lit by a single orange beacon that pulsed in the light of the rising sun. Nyali guided her ship down through shaky layers of atmosphere. Each jolt of turbulence reminded her that she had spent many nights sleeping in cargo bays or empty fields, curious eyes watching her with fear. But she had to keep trying. She needed a place to belong, even if it was only for a little while. When the landing struts touched down, a low groan came from the engines. Nyali exhaled in relief. She opened the hatch and a rush of hot, dusty air rushed in. She adjusted the small pack on her shoulders. Inside it were her few belongings, a single set of spare clothes, a thin blanket woven from Xerisian fibers, and a simple crystal that glowed softly when she focused her emotions on it. That crystal reminded her of home and gave her strength. Down. Below, the settlement came into view. It was a tangle of metal shacks and small domed buildings. Smoke rose from simple furnaces where metalworkers melted scrap into plate and beam. A few merchants had set up stalls of painted wood and patched canvas. The early morning light made long shadows on the dusty ground. Nyali stepped onto the landing pad and took her first careful steps onto Veritas 4. Her glowing skin drew the eyes of a few nearby workers. Some stared with surprise. Others turned away in disgust. She held herself straight and moved forward. The main street of the settlement began a short walk away. Nyali clutched her pack closer to her chest. She was used to this feeling. Her heart thudded against her ribcage in an anxious rhythm. Yet inside, she felt something like a stubborn spark of hope. Maybe someone here was kind. Maybe someone could see past her alien skin. She approached the first shop, a small pantry where two human women sorted grains and dried fruit. Their hair was pulled back, and they wore simple cloth tunics stained with flour. When they saw Nyali step close, the taller woman frowned and whispered to her partner. With a nod, the shorter woman came forward and said coldly, "No lodgings here. You must be lost." Nyali's shoulders sagged. "Pass. I only seek a small room, or maybe a day's work to earn a meal." Her voice was soft but carried an undertone of pleading. The woman's eyes flicked to Nyali's glowing skin. She turned and stomped back inside without another word. Nyali bowed her head, gathering herself. One rejection was not a disaster. She had faced many worse. She moved on to the next building, a workshop labeled Metalworks and Repairs. Inside, a middle-aged man bent over a glowing forge, hammering a hot slab of metal. Nyali stepped forward, trying to hide her nervous flare of bioluminescence. "Sir," she said, voice trembling a little. "I can help in exchange for a place to stay. I will do any task." The man wiped sweat from his brow and glared. "We don't hire Xerisians, they bring trouble." He spat a small glob of blackened water from the forge. "Go away before you get hurt." Nyali felt a pang of hurt, but she closed her eyes for a moment and focused on her breath. She did not respond. Instead, she turned and left without another word. The hot dust of the workshop's doorway felt hard against her feet. She walked out into the brightness of the morning, each footstep echoing her worry. As she moved along, Nyali passed a long alleyway where a group of rough-looking laborers loaded crates onto a ramshackle freighter. They glanced at her and began to laugh lowly. The tallest one hacked a harsh laugh and called out, "Hey, glowing girl looking for scraps, try the junk piles." He made a throwing motion with his hand. The others joined in laughing. Nyali paused, swallowing hard as the laughter stung her ears. Her empathic senses sensed their fear and prejudice, but she also felt something else, a small hint of doubt, as though a few of them were not entirely certain of their own cruel words. She focused on that tiny flicker, reminding herself that somewhere inside them kindness could still be found. She turned back to the laborers and said quietly, "I am not looking for friendly words, I only need a task." The laughter cut off like a broken fuse. They frowned, then shook their heads. "No," the tallest said. "Get out of here, alien." Nyali bowed her head again and walked on. Each rejection felt like a weight on her chest. She paused in an open square where a rusty fountain sputtered in dry water. She sat on the cold metal edge, her glowing arms wrapping around her knees. She took slow breaths, guiding her empathic gift to soothe the heavy pain in her heart. The quiet of that dusty square, she saw a flash of memory. Her mother's gentle hand on her cheek as she had been sent away, tears shining in her mother's eyes. She remembered her father's warning voice. "You must find somewhere your gift." Nyali rose from the edge of the dry fountain and wiped the dust from her legs. The bright sun warmed her glowing skin, making her feel both exposed and determined. She walked toward the outskirts of the settlement, thinking that maybe the people who lived at the edge would be kinder. She had already tried the shops and workshops in the center. Now she hoped small farms or supply depots might need extra hands. As she stepped past the last cluster of metal shacks, she noticed a low building set back from the road. Above its rusted sign, the words read Sarek Supply and Trade. The doorway stood open and a small lantern flickered inside. One of the merchants at the market had told her that Sarek sometimes hired helpers for odd jobs, carrying supplies, cleaning, or simple repairs. Nyali's heart lifted slightly. She crossed the dusty path and approached the entrance. Inside, rows of wooden shelves held bags of grain, dried fruits, and small stacks of metal plates. At a battered counter, a short human man in a faded cloth shirt weighed a sack of grains for a customer. His skin was tanned from the sun, and his hands were rough from work. Nyali waited patiently for him to finish. When the customer left, Nyali stepped forward and spoke softly. "Sir, I wish to work for food or place to sleep. Please, I only need a chance." Her voice trembled a little, but she tried to keep it steady. The merchant set the scale aside and studied her glowing skin. His eyes flicked to the door and back. He frowned and crossed his arms. "We do not have room for Zyricians," he said. "Try the next town over." Nyali's chest tightened, but she refused to give up. "Please, I can carry sacks or clean. I promise I will work hard." The merchant shook his head. "I am sorry. We cannot risk trouble. You should leave." Nyali bowed her head and turned away. She felt the old sting of rejection, but she forced herself to walk on. Outside, a gust of hot wind stirred the red dust around her feet. She inhaled deeply and reminded herself that Sarek's supply was only one place. There must be others. She decided to head toward the small fields beyond the settlement where a handful of farmers had set up simple greenhouses. Maybe one of them would accept her help. As she walked, she noticed the farms were separated by a narrow dirt road. Each greenhouse had glass panels that trapped the morning light, making small spots of green grow in the dry soil. At the first greenhouse, Nyali saw two farmers kneeling by rows of sprouts. One was a tall alien from a race of winged beings. The other was a human woman wearing a wide-brimmed hat. They both looked up when Nyali approached. The winged alien frowned and brushed dust from her wings. "What do you want?" she asked in a low voice. Nyali swallowed. I seek work in exchange for food or a place to sleep. I can help tend the plants, carry water, or clean. The human farmer tilted her head, curious. What is your name? She asked kindly. Nyali felt a flicker of hope. Nyali, the winged farmer folded her arms. Are you Zerisian? She asked, her tone sharp. Nyali nodded, feeling her heart beat faster. Yes, I have worked on other worlds, but they did not accept me. I try here now. The winged alien's eyes narrowed. Zerisians have caused trouble before. They can sense thoughts and feelings. They might spy on us. Nyali took a gentle breath. I only wish to help. I do not spy. My gift is to calm anger and fear. I do not harm anyone. The human woman studied Nyali's gentle face and glowing skin. She placed her hand on Nyali's shoulder. Her help, she said quietly. I believe she speaks truth. The winged alien hesitated, then glanced at her partner. With a sigh, she nodded. All right, you can help with watering, but if we sense trouble, you leave. Nyali bowed her head in gratitude. Thank you. I will not let you down. She followed the farmers to a row of sprouts. The human farmer handed Nyali a small watering can. The metal was warm from the sun. Nyali knelt and poured water gently at the base of each plant, careful not to splash soil onto their green leaves. She felt the moisture seep into the dry earth, and a small spark of calm joy flared in her chest. As she worked, she noticed the winged alien watching her closely. The farmer spoke softly to Nyali while she worked. What is your home world like? She asked quietly, trying to be friendly. Nyali paused and glanced up at the sky. Xyrus was a world of blue seas and silver forests. My people lived in tall tree cities, but we began to fear what we did not understand. They thought my gift of empathy was dangerous. I tried to show them it could bring peace, but they turned me away. The human farmer wiped sweat from her brow and said, I am sorry you lost your home. Here, we need people who can care for the plants. If you want, you may stay and work for as long as you like. Nyali's heart soared. Thank you, she whispered. When Lena offered Nyali a simple meal of dried fruit and water, Nyali sat on a wooden crate and ate slowly, savoring each bite. Torin stood nearby, wings folded, watching Nyali with a thoughtful expression. Later, Torin stepped forward. Tomorrow, she said quietly, you can help with more tasks. I will watch. But if you try to harm us, we will ask you to leave. Nyali's glowing eyes filled with gratitude. I promise I will not harm anyone. As the two farmers turned to their own work, Nyali looked out of the greenhouse window at the shimmering red plains. Under the wide blue sky of Veritas IV, she felt a small ember of hope burn brighter. She still did not know how long she could stay, but for now, she had work, shelter, and kindness. And that, Nyali thought, was more than she had at the start of the day. With her heart lighter than it had been in a long time, Nyali prepared to rest that evening in a cozy corner of the greenhouse. The gentle glow from her indigo skin lit the nearby seedlings, and she closed her eyes, dreaming that perhaps at last she had found a place where she could be herself. Nyali awoke before dawn, her indigo skin glowing softly in the low light of the greenhouse. Outside, the red plain of Veritas IV was quiet and still, except for the faint hum of machinery at the small farms nearby. She stretched, planting her bare feet on the cool metal floor. Her heart felt light. Yesterday had been the first time anyone on this world had offered her work and shelter with kindness. She did not want to waste a single moment. A gentle glow from the seedlings greeted her as she stood. Each tiny sprout seemed to lean toward her light. She breathed in the humid air, letting the scent of damp earth fill her lungs. She picked up a watering can and moved slowly among the rows, giving each plant a careful pour of water. Lena's soft voice came from behind her. Good morning, Nyali. You have slept well? Lena's dark eyes were kind, and her voice carried a quiet warmth. Nyali turned and nodded, her violet-brown hair brushing her shoulders. Yes, thank you. I feel rested. Torin stood beside Lena, folding and unfolding her metallic wings as she watched Nyali move among the plants. Torin's pale skin and slender frame made her look fragile, but Nyali sensed strength in every tilt of her head. Torin spoke softly. You have a gift with these plants, she said. They grow better under your light. Nyali's cheeks glowed faintly. I am happy to help. Lena set a basket of ripe fruit on a wooden crate. Eat a little, then we can begin today's tasks. Some repairs were damaged by last night's wind. We need to fix the panel on the east side. Nyali smiled and took a piece of soft, sweet fruit. Each bite tasted like bright sunshine. She felt a small thrill of joy to be allowed to share in this simple task. The day before, she had feared the farmers would ask her to leave once the novelty of her presence wore off. But Lena and Torin treated her with respect. After eating, Nyali followed Lena outside. The greenhouse doors opened onto a small yard where broken panels lay in a messy pile. The wind had ripped loose a metal sheet from the roof, and some glass panes were cracked. The farmers pointed to the damage. Lena explained. Torin and I can repair some of it, but we need help lifting these panels. She turned to Nyali. Can you use your strength to hold this beam steady? Nyali nodded. Her muscles felt strong, even after months of wandering. Together, the three of them worked in silence, fitting the panels back into place. Nyali held the beam as Lena tightened bolts and Torin guided them from above. Each panel slipped into its slot until the east side was whole again. When the work was done, Torin brushed a piece of metal shavings from Nyali's shoulder. Thank you, she said, her voice calm. You did well. Nyali smiled. I am glad I could help. The sky above them glowed a dusty pink as the sun rose higher. The heat of the day began to build, and the farmers guided Nyali back into the greenhouse. Inside, cool air settled around them. Lena brought fresh water in a clay pot. Drink, Lena said, handing Nyali a cup. She drank the water slowly. The coolness spread through her, easing any fatigue. Torin leaned against the doorframe, watching silently. Suddenly, a distant rumble rose on the horizon. Nyali halted mid-sip and listened. Torin frowned. Supply riders, she said. 2 riders from the mining outpost to the east. Nyali set the cup down gently. Will they come here? Lena straightened. They usually bring supplies, but they sometimes check if we have hired any strangers. They might ask questions. Nyali felt a sudden jolt of anxiety. She had grown used to friendly work with Lena and Torin, but she still feared the day her true nature would be discovered. If the riders demanded to see her papers, she might lose this place. Torin nodded. Stay calm. We will face them together. Oninta rumble grew nearer. Nyali joined Lena and Torin at the greenhouse door. They watched 3 speeder bikes emerge from the dusty haze. 2 riders wore matching brown uniforms, and the third, riding slightly behind, carried a small hollow pad strapped to his wrist. Their engines spat dust as they slowed alongside the greenhouse. One uniformed rider dismounted and approached quickly. He was a tall man with a stern face, and his sharp eyes flicked over Nyali. You are the new helper? He asked. His tone, curt. Nyali took a steady breath. Yes, my name is Nyali. The rider's gaze passed over Torin and Lena. He nodded to his companion, who came forward and spoke into the hollow pad. Veritas 4 outpost. 2 riders report finding a Zerisian in a private greenhouse. We need to confirm her status. Nyali felt her hands tremble. She tried to steady herself by focusing on the glowing crystal at the base of her throat. It pulsed steadily with her heartbeat. She met the rider's eyes. I have permission to work here, she said quietly. Lena stepped forward, placing a hand on Nyali's shoulder. He is correct, she said to the rider. Nyali works for us. She has done no harm. I will show you my permit from station headquarters. The rider hesitated. He glanced at Torin and then back at the hollow pad. Let me see it. Lena reached into a pocket and produced a small, sun-faded sheet of paper. She handed it to the rider. He scanned the paper with his eyes, then looked back at Niali. "Your species is not common here," he said. "We have rules about non-registered aliens." Niali's pulse sped. She did not know what rules this world had for alien workers. She tried to speak calmly. "Please, I only wish to earn food. I have no intention of breaking any law." The rider seemed uncertain. He flipped through his holopad, checking the registry. Niali stood as still as she could, feeling every second stretch on. Finally, the rider looked up. "Your permit is in order," he said to Lena. He turned to Niali. "I will note you on record. Do not leave this area without notifying the outpost. Understood?" Niali nodded. "Thank you. I will." The rider returned the permit and signaled to his companions. "We will be leaving now. Keep me informed if anything changes." As they rode away, the dust cloud faded behind them. Niali exhaled slowly, the tension leaving her shoulders. Lena and Torin each gave her a small smile. "Good job," Lena said. "We knew you would keep calm." Torin stepped forward and placed a hand on Niali's arm. "You handled that well. I see why Lena trusts you." Niali felt tears prick her eyes, tears of relief and hope. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm grateful." The rest of the morning passed with a peaceful rhythm. Niali helped Torin sort small seed packets, while Lena prepared a simple lunch of roasted tubers and fresh water. As they ate together, Niali spoke of Xyrus again, how her people lived in tree cities and how her gift of empathy once brought them peace. Lena and Torin listened with open hearts, nodding at each memory. In the gentle afternoon light, Niali realized that she was no longer a lonely wanderer. She had found two people who saw her not as a stranger, but as a valued friend. For the first time in a long while, she believed that acceptance and kindness could be real. Late in the day, as Niali packed away the last of the tools, a shadow passed across the greenhouse. She looked up and saw a large transport ship descending from the sky. Its sleek hull gleamed with polished metal, and its engines left a faint trail of blue exhaust. Lena and Torin paused, looking at the ship with curiosity. The large ship landed, gently in the dusty field beside the greenhouse. Its silver surface shimmered in the sunlight. The engine slowed with a soft hum, and dust swirled around the ramp as it slowly opened. Niali stood near the greenhouse door with Lena and Torin. All three watched carefully, unsure who had arrived. Visitors were rare in this quiet farming zone. Niali's heart beat fast, not with fear but curiosity. Something about the ship felt different. Clean, strong, peaceful. Out of the ship stepped a tall human man wearing a dark brown coat, old, but neat. His hair was short and gray at the sides, and he walked with calm confidence. Behind him floated a small round drone, blinking with soft blue lights. The man stopped a short distance away and looked at them. His eyes were thoughtful and kind. He gave a slight smile and raised a hand in greeting. "Good day," he said in clear, gentle common. "My name is Captain Elias Rourke. I'm looking for someone named Niali." Niali blinked in surprise. Her name, spoken by a human stranger, felt like a quiet shock. Torin stepped forward protectively. "Why are you looking for her?" Elias paused. "I received a message from a local trader," he explained. "He said a Xyrisian girl with special skills was working here. I've helped other aliens find safe passage or work before. I came to see if she needed help." Lena looked at Niali. "Did you ask someone to call for help?" Niali shook her head slowly. "No. But maybe someone saw me and told him." Her eyes stayed on Elias. She stepped forward and spoke softly. "I'm Niali. Why do you want to help me?" Elias smiled gently. "Because I've seen what happens when kind people are left behind. Years ago, I rescued a child who was nearly taken by smugglers. She was from a planet no one cared about. But now she's a doctor helping others. You remind me of her." Niali looked at him, unsure. "I am just a worker now. I don't need saving. I only want peace. Elias nodded. Peace is good. But I also believe you have more to offer than pulling weeds and fixing broken glass. Nayali looked down. Her glowing fingers brushed the edge of her shirt. I was rejected by many. They did not like my gift. What is your gift? Elias asked softly. I can feel emotions. I can calm fear or anger. But some fear that power. Elias looked thoughtful. That's not something to fear. That's something to protect. There was a long silence. Then Lena stepped forward. Captain, Rourke, she has been good to us. She never caused harm. If you want to take her, it must be her choice. Torin nodded. She has earned our trust. Elias smiled at both of them. I'm not here to take her by force. I only offer her a seat on my ship, and a better chance. Nayali looked at the greenhouse behind her. It had become a place of safety, perhaps even the beginning of something like home. But she also knew this might be her only chance to leave Veritas 4 and find her real purpose. She turned to Lena. Would you be angry if I left? She asked. Lena shook her head. Not angry, just proud. You've helped us. But I think the stars are calling you. Torin stepped close and placed a hand on Nieli's shoulder. You're stronger than you think. Go if your heart tells you to. Nieli looked at Elias again. His ship stood ready, quiet and open. Her heart was full of nervous energy but also hope. I'll come, she said. Elias nodded. Then welcome aboard. Nieli packed her small bag, her blanket, her crystal, and the clothes Lena had given her. Before she left, Lena hugged her tightly. Remember us when you find where you belong. I will, Nieli whispered. Torin gave her a short nod. May the wind carry you safely. As she walked toward the ship with Elias, she looked back one last time. The greenhouse glowed in the afternoon sun. Two good people stood in the doorway, waving. Inside the ship, the hallway was clean and warm. Lights blinked along the walls. Elias led her to a small room with a soft bed and a window showing the sky. You can rest here, he said. There's food in the mess hall. You'll be safe. Nieli sat on the bed, placing her bag beside her. The window showed the orange. Fields of Veritas 4 slowly fading as the ship lifted into the sky. Elias stood at the doorway. I don't know where your path leads, Nieli, but if you want to help people, we'll find a way. Nieli smiled softly. Thank you, Captain. I'm ready. As the ship entered the stars, Nieli felt the pain of her past drift behind her. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving. She was beginning something new, and somewhere deep inside, she felt her gift grow stronger. This time, someone believed in her, and that was the beginning of everything. The stars outside the ship's window sparkled like silver dust in the endless dark. Nieli sat quietly in her small room aboard Aurora's Dawn, Captain Elias Rourke's ship. Her glowing skin reflected the light from the control panels. It had been 2 days since she left Veritas 4. 2 days since she said goodbye to Lena and Torin. 2 days since someone finally believed in her. The ship moved smoothly through space. It felt peaceful, like sailing across a quiet sea. Nieli often watched the stars, thinking about where she had been and where she might go next. Captain Elias had been kind to her. He gave her space to rest and time to think. But he had also given her a question. What do you want to do now? She had no easy answer. For so long, she had only tried to survive. Now, with safety around her, she had to find a new purpose. One morning, Elias knocked gently on her door. Come in, she said softly. Elias stepped inside with a friendly smile. He held 2 mugs of warm tea. Thought you could use a break from stargazing. Nieli took the tea, her hands warming around the cup. Thank you, Captain. Call me Elias, he said, sitting in the chair across from her. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elias spoke again. There's a place I want to take you. It's called Haven Station. It's a neutral outpost at the edge of Federation space. A lot of people who have nowhere else to go end up there. Nieli looked up, curious. Aliens too? Elias nodded. All kinds. Humans, Thari, Xelon, even a few Xyrisians from old colonies. It's a place where people start over. You might like it. Nyali felt a small spark of interest. Do they accept everyone? They accept anyone who doesn't cause trouble, Elias said with a grin. And you? You help people. That's a gift, Nyali, not something to hide. She lowered her gaze. Some fear my gift. Fear comes from not understanding, Elias said. But if you show them who you are, they'll see the truth. Nyali nodded slowly. I would like to see Haven. Good, Elias said. We'll be there in 2 days. 2 days later, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Outside the window, Haven Station came into view, a huge ring-shaped structure spinning slowly against a bright star field. Lights twinkled across its surface, and dozens of small ships moved in and out of its docks. Nyali watched in wonder. It's beautiful, she whispered. Elias smiled. Wait until you step inside. The ship docked smoothly. As the airlock opened, a wave of warm, fresh air entered. It smelled of flowers, spices, and life. Nyali followed Elias through the long metal halls, past gardens and glass walkways until they reached the main plaza. The plaza was filled with life, humans and aliens of every shape and color. Children laughed, traders shouted cheerful greetings, and music played in the distance. Nyali's eyes widened. She had never seen such a mix of cultures in one place. Welcome to Haven, Elias said proudly. They walked through a quiet garden area where soft lights glowed in the trees. At the center stood a tall white building with a clear sign, Outreach Center. This is where we help people like you, Elias said. The center trains mediators, people who help solve problems between different groups. You could do well here. Nyali looked uncertain. Me? A mediator? You have empathy, Elias said. You feel what others feel. That's powerful. You can help stop fights before they start. Nyali thought of her past. The times she had tried to calm people. The times it had worked. Maybe. I can try. Inside the outreach center, they met a woman named Mira. She was human, with long silver hair and kind eyes. She welcomed Nyali warmly. We've never had a full-blooded Xyrisian apply, Mira said. But we've heard of your gift. If you're willing to learn, we're willing to teach. Nyali nodded, feeling both nervous and excited. I'm ready. Days turned into weeks. Nyali studied with Mira and other trainers. She learned how to speak clearly, how to listen deeply, and how to use her empathy without overwhelming others. She helped settle small arguments between merchants and neighbors. Slowly, people began to trust her. Some still stared, some still whispered. But others smiled. They thanked her. They saw her not as a danger but as a helper. Elias visited often. He always brought stories from other planets and warm tea. I knew you'd do well, he would say. Nyali began to feel something she had not known for a long time. Belonging. One evening, after a long day of training, Nyali stood at the edge of the garden plaza. The sun lamps above bathed everything. In golden light, she watched children play near a fountain. A small alien child ran up to her, laughed, and touched her glowing hand. You're pretty, the child said before running off. Nyali smiled, heart full. Her journey was not over, but for the first time it was no longer a lonely one. She had found a place that didn't just accept her gift. It welcomed her for it. Nyali stood quietly in Haven Station's garden plaza. Her eyes closed as she breathed in the scent of warm flowers and soft soil. Around her, the peaceful hum of life continued. Children playing, traders laughing, and people from many worlds sharing stories. For the first time in her life, Nyali felt like she truly belonged somewhere. She had spent several weeks working at the outreach center, using her gift of empathy to help settle small arguments and guide others toward understanding. Mira, her mentor, often said, "You don't just calm problems, Nyali. You help people see themselves." It was the greatest praise Nyali had ever received. But peace didn't last forever. One afternoon, as she finished a session with two traders arguing over cargo space, she returned to her room and found Elias waiting outside her door. His face was calm, but there was something serious in his eyes. "I think you should hear this," he said, holding out a small data tablet. Nyali took it slowly. The screen blinked and showed a message from the station's communication center. A ship had arrived and someone on board had requested to meet her. The sender's name made her breath catch. Consul Marleth, representative of the Zirician High Council. Nyali's fingers trembled. She hadn't heard that name in years. Marleth was one of the strongest voices against her back on Xeris. He had called her a threat to tradition, a danger to the unity of their caste system. He had helped push her into exile. "They want to speak with me?" she asked quietly. Elias nodded. "They came on an official diplomatic ship. They asked the council here for a meeting, only with you." Nyali stared at the screen, unsure what to feel. Fear, anger, but also curiosity. "I'll go," she said after a moment. "I want to know why they came." Later that evening, in a quiet meeting room near the diplomatic hall, Nyali sat across from Consul Marleth. He had not changed much. His skin shimmered in the pale green light, and his robes flowed around him like smoke. His eyes, however, were sharper now, more tired, but still full of pride. "Nyali," he said, his voice deep and calm. "We have watched your actions here." Nyali kept her hands folded. "You never cared about my actions before?" Marleth nodded slowly. "We misunderstood your gift. Many still do. But things are changing. The council is under pressure. Some now say your empathy is useful. They sent me to speak to you." Nyali didn't answer. Marleth continued. "I was sent to ask you to return to Xeris, not as an exile, as an advisor, a symbol of progress." Nyali's heart thudded. "Return? After all these years?" She looked at him closely. "You cast me out. You said I would divide the people." "I believe that," Marleth admitted. "But now I see. You've united people here. You've made something good. Perhaps we were wrong." Nyali felt her emotions swirl. She had dreamed of hearing those words, but now they felt strange. She had made a home here. She didn't need approval from those who had abandoned her. "Why now?" she asked. "Why change your mind?" "Because Haven Station is becoming important," Marleth said honestly. "Other races look here for leadership, and they see you. The council fears falling behind." Nyali shook her head. "You don't want me. You want the image of me." Marleth looked down for a moment. "Perhaps, but still, your return could help many." Nyali stood, her voice calm but strong. "I won't go back to be used as a symbol. I won't be silent so others can feel comfortable." Marleth's expression changed. There was respect in his eyes. "You've become stronger than I expected." Nyali looked toward the door. "I became stronger because I was free, because humans gave me a place to grow." Marleth stood, too. "If you ever change your mind, the door is open." She gave a small nod. "Thank you. But for now, I choose to stay." The next day, news of the meeting spread across Haven. Many aliens and even humans came to Nyali to ask about her decision. Some feared war. Others cheered her choice. Later, as she walked through the garden plaza, Elias joined her. "You handled that well," he said. "I didn't expect to feel so sure," she replied. "You've built something here," Elias said. "Not just for yourself, but for others too." Nyali looked around at the people who smiled as she passed. She thought of the child who once ran up to her, calling her pretty. She thought of Mira and the other trainees. She thought of Elias, who had given her a chance when no one else would. "This is my home now," she said quietly. Elias nodded. "Then let's protect it. Together." As the stars shone above Haven Station, Nyali knew her journey wasn't over, but she had taken control of it. No longer the rejected girl, No longer the silent outcast. She was a voice, a guide, a light, and now everyone could see it. The sun lamps above Haven Station's central dome cast a golden glow over the garden plaza. Trees swayed gently in the artificial breeze and laughter echoed through the open paths. Niali stood near the fountain, dressed in a soft, flowing robe made by local weavers. Her indigo skin shimmered in the light, glowing calmly as people from all corners of the station passed by with smiles and respectful nods. Today was a special day. It had been many weeks since the Zyrician delegation came and left. Niali's choice to stay on Haven had brought both questions and celebration. Some doubted her decision. Others called her brave. But no one ignored her anymore. The outreach center had grown busier with each passing week. New mediators had joined. The training program, inspired by Niali's calm voice and patient presence. Even those who were once unsure about her gift now spoke of her with respect. In the heart of the plaza, workers finished placing the last piece of a tall memorial. It was a crystal tower, clear and shining, built with the help of both humans and aliens. At its base were the names of people who had helped build peace across the stars: refugees, teachers, doctors, and mediators. At the top of the list was one name, Niali of Xeris. Captain Elias Rourke stepped beside her, smiling as he looked up at the tower. "What do you think?" he asked. Niali looked at it for a long moment. "I never thought I would see something like this, with my name on it." "You didn't just earn it," Elias said. "You became part of something bigger." Mira, her mentor from the outreach center, joined them. Her silver hair caught the light as she handed Niali a small badge. It was shaped like a blooming flower, with a glowing blue center. "This is the symbol of our council's highest honor," Mira said. "We want you to represent Haven Station to the wider Federation. You've shown what true peace-building looks like." Niali took the badge in her hand. It was warm and light like the soft beat of her heart. "Thank you," she whispered. Soon a crowd began to gather around the memorial. People of many kinds stood side by side, tall, short, scaled, furred, glowing, human, families, friends, former strangers who had become neighbors. The station's speaker hummed to life, and Mira stepped forward to speak. "Today, we celebrate unity," she said. "We celebrate those who refused to let fear rule their lives. We celebrate those who gave hope, even when they had none left to give. And we honor one of those people here with us now, Niali." The crowd turned to her, and for a moment, Niali felt shy. But then she looked into the faces of the people who had helped her. Lena and Torin had traveled from Veritas 4 just to be here. Mira smiled gently, and Elias, who had given her a chance when no one else would, stood beside her with pride in his eyes. Niali stepped forward. She looked out at the crowd, took a breath, and began to speak. "There was a time," she said, "when I thought no one would ever see me as more than a stranger. I was turned away again and again, not because of what I did, but because of who I was. I began to wonder if my gift was a curse." The crowd listened quietly. "But then," she continued, "I met people who didn't turn away. A human gave me a ride when I had nowhere to go. 2 farmers gave me work when I needed food. And here on Haven Station I found a place that accepted me, truly accepted me." Her voice grew stronger. "We are all different. We speak different languages. We come from different skies. But we all want safety. We all want to be seen. And we all want peace." She placed her hand on the glowing crystal tower. "This is not just my story. It is all of ours. If we keep opening doors, if we keep listening, and if we keep believing that kindness is stronger than fear, then we will always find our way." Applause rose around her like a wave. Niali stepped back, her heart full. Later, as the sun lamps dimmed into evening mode and soft music played across the plaza, Niali sat on a bench beside Elias. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, and lights sparkled like stars above. "Do you ever miss flying through the stars?" she asked. Elias chuckled. "Sometimes, But watching you grow has been worth staying in one place for a while. Niali smiled. I think I'll still travel, but not to run away anymore. Now I'll go to share what I've learned. Elias nodded. You'll do good things, Niali. More than you even know. As the station settled into a quiet evening rhythm, Niali looked at the people around her. They were laughing, talking, and sharing stories, different, yet united. Her heart was calm. Her path was clear. She was no longer the alien girl who had been rejected hundreds of times. She was Niali, the light that helped others find their way home. And in that moment, she knew